Have you ever wondered why some businesses just seem to take off, while others, even with a fantastic product, just fizzle out? Well, the answer often isn't inside the company at all. It's out there, in a whole world of invisible forces they can't control. So let's dive into what that world, the business environment, is all about.
This powerful idea comes from an innovator named Dharamviri Kamboj. Roughly translated, it means struggle is the biggest success. If you want to move forward, don't look back. And honestly, his story is the perfect place to start, because it shows exactly how just paying attention to the world around you can lead to something incredible.
So, let's get into it. How does a rickshaw puller become a game-changing innovator? Well, it's a story that's all about watching, listening, and spotting a real opportunity, where pretty much everyone else just saw, daily life.
So picture this. The Ramvir's life gets completely turned upside down by a bad accident. He can't do his job anymore, so he's forced to go back home to his village. He didn't have much formal education, no special training. His options seemed really, really limited. It was a true crisis point.
But here's where things get interesting. Instead of giving up, he started looking. He just watched what was going on around him, and he noticed the women in his village struggling with this incredibly tough, painful manual labor just to process fruits. Right there, he didn't just see a problem. He saw a gap, a social need, a tech gap, and that's what sparked his big idea.
So how does this one guy's story connect to this big idea? Well, what Dharamvir was doing, maybe without even knowing it, was tapping into the very essence of what we call the business environment. It's all about being deeply aware of the world just outside your window.
Let's really break it down. What were those invisible forces he was tuning into? Well, he saw the social conditions, right? The hard labor of women. He saw the economic realities. They couldn't afford any existing machines. He was, without even having the textbook term for it, analyzing his business environment.
And here it is, the formal definition. The business environment is basically everything outside of a company that can impact how well it does. I mean, think of it this way. If you take the whole universe and subtract the company itself, everything that's left, that's its environment.
And here's what makes it so darn tricky. It's dynamic, always shifting. It's complex, you can never really see the whole picture at once. It's uncertain, because who can predict the future? And all these pieces are interrelated. A new piece of tech can change social trends, which can mess with the economy. It's a giant web.
Now, to make sense of it all, we can kind of split these forces into two. You've got your specific forces, that's the stuff right in your backyard, like your customers, your suppliers, the competition. Then you have the general forces. These are the big waves that affect everybody, like the economy, politics, or some new social trend. Okay, so why is this so critical? Think of a business manager as the captain of a ship. You can't control the ocean, the wind, or the weather, right? But you absolutely have to understand them if you want to get anywhere. Ignoring your environment is pretty much like trying to sail blindfolded.
And when you're that captain scanning the horizon, you're looking for two main things. Opportunities. Those are like favorable winds that can push you forward faster. And threats. Those are the storms brewing on the horizon that could seriously mess up your journey if you're not ready for them.
Now, if you spot one of those opportunities early, you get what's called a first mover advantage. It's a huge leg up. A classic example is Maruti in India. They looked around and saw the environment was changing, a growing middle class, rising fuel prices. They were the first to jump on it and make small, affordable cars. And guess what? They dominated the market for years.
Okay, this all sounds huge and complicated, right? So how can a business actually start to get a handle on all these big general forces? Well, luckily for us, there's a framework for that. Think of it like a toolkit for understanding the world.
And that toolkit breaks the world down into these 5 key areas: the economic, social, technological, political, and legal environments. Put them all together and you've got a pretty good map of the world your business is operating in.
So let's do a super quick tour. Economic is all about things like interest rates, basically how much cash people have to spend. Social is about culture and trends, like the huge boom in health and fitness we're seeing. Technological is, new inventions that can create or kill entire industries. Political is about how stable the government is. And legal is just what it sounds like, the laws and rules you gotta play by.
Now, to really see how powerful these forces can be when they all shift at once, we've got to look at a massive, real-world example. Back in 1991, the entire business environment of India was basically turned on its head. It was a complete reboot.
So before 1991, the business world in India was pretty locked down by the state. Lots of restrictions. But then, a massive crisis hit. The country was on the verge of going broke, so the government stepped in and announced a new industrial policy that changed, well, everything.
And when I say crisis, I really mean it. To put this in perspective, India's foreign reserves had dropped so low they could barely pay for 3 weeks of essential stuff from other countries. The situation was desperate, and it forced a radical change in both the political and economic environment. Something had to give.
So the first big move was something called liberalization. This was all about cutting through this infamous nightmare of red tape. This system that required tons of government permission for just about anything. It basically set businesses free to actually make their own decisions.
Next up, privatization. This is pretty much what it sounds like. It meant shrinking the role of government-owned companies and letting the private sector take the lead. The government started selling off its shares in these public companies to fuel more competition and efficiency.
And the final piece of the puzzle, globalization. India basically opened its doors to the rest of the world, connecting its economy to the global market. Suddenly, India wasn't just playing on a national field, it was on the world stage. The whole game changed.
Okay, so we've gone from one man's brilliant idea in a small village all the way to a whole country's economic revolution. What's the big takeaway for us in all of this? How do we use it?
Here's the bottom line. Success isn't some finish line you cross. It's a constant, never-ending process of adapting. The businesses that win are the ones that are always watching, always listening, and always adjusting their sails to catch the changing winds of their environment. So I'll leave you with a question. Think about it. In your job, in your industry, even in just your day-to-day life, what are the invisible, economic, social, technological, political, and legal forces that are shaping your world right now?